Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jennifer Schaus coming to you live from Washington, D.C., and we are continuing on in our government contracting webinar series, Learn Before You Leap. We're in our final week here with our final topic, which is winning proposals. Certainly a hot topic in the current environment that we're in with the federal fourth quarter upon us. So we've covered various government contracting topics over the last 3 weeks. All of the webinars are recorded, and the links are there for you to download. These recordings are also available on our website. So if you go to jenniferschaus.com, we have a tab that you can click on that says Webinars, where you will find all of these webinars as well as other government contracting topics. Today's webinar will be available later this evening. And we will send that out to you via email. If you, for whatever reason, missed the email, you can jump onto our website and find it there. So we're very pleased today to have Michael Hordell and Rob Leahy of Pepper Hamilton Law Firm with us. Again, the topic is winning proposals, what a company needs to focus on. So just a quick blurb about my organization. We are based in Washington, D.C. I've had over 20 years of government contracting experience. Our main focus is helping companies with the GSA schedule. So that means assisting companies with a GSA schedule proposal, getting onto the schedule, maintaining it, assisting with audits, renewals, modifications, and everything else that comes with the schedules. In addition to that, we host government contractor events. These are networking events as well as workshops. Our networking events primarily take place in Washington, D.C. at the John F. Kennedy Center. We bring in anywhere from 200 to 250 attendees, federal agencies, small businesses, as well as prime contractors who are looking for small business teaming partners. In addition to that, through some of our partners, we provide government contractor support services, and this includes market research to help you formulate a business-to-government business plan, federal sales and business development, and other services. A quick note and shout out to our sponsor, Uninet, which is a Virginia-based software firm. They help government contractors with the financing and back office portion of government contracting. So maintaining billing and revenue recognition, DCAA compliance, and just your general contract management. Their website is listed there, uninet.com. And the best contact to reach for a demo or a trial would be Morgan Franklin, and her email address is listed there. So today's agenda, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Michael Hordell and Rob Leahy. They will jump into their presentation. If you then have any questions, you can type them on the right-hand side of your screen. You should see a gray box, and we'll answer those questions in the order that they're received. Michael and Rob will then provide some conclusions and final remarks, and then we'll wrap up the recording. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll post the recording on our website later tonight, and you'll also receive that in an email. Okay, so I want to again thank Michael and Rob for joining us and sharing their time and expertise with us. A little bit about Michael, who I've gotten to know over the years. He's the chair of the Government Contracts Practice Group of Pepper Hamilton. He holds a top secret clearance, and he advises many small and large businesses on various government contracting issues, including bid protests, disputes, teaming agreements, JVs, and he's written, co-authored winning proposals and pricing cost strategies, a guide for the federal contractor. So if you haven't picked up the book, he could probably tell you more about it, and it's a great read. Rob Leahy is an associate for the Government Contracts Practice Group. He's part of the firm's Sustainability and Clean Tech and Climate Change team. He represents clients before the government GAO and the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. He's experienced in major defense acquisition programs and so forth. So we've got two fantastic experts here with us today. And what I will do now is hand the controls over to Mike and Rob and let them jump into their presentation. So you are in good hands here. And Mike and Rob, take it away.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's terrific to be working with you today. Also, it is truly my pleasure to be presenting this program today with Rob Leahy, who has been working with me for the past year and a half, which really seems like yesterday. His procurement experience as an Air Force JAG and as a civilian attorney at Hanscom Air Force Base, where he counseled Air Force procurement teams on various programs from cradle to grave, has been extremely valuable here in helping Pepper and the group represent our client base. Jennifer, we're having a little bit of a problem with the advancing of the slides.
Okay. There we go. Is that?
Well, you should. Why don't you take it and let's go to the first slide then.
Okay.
I'm not sure why it's not working, but and while we're trying to get to the first, well, there it is. Good.
Okay.
In dealing with the United States government, you're dealing with what I feel is the world's largest customer, and it's really not like any commercial customer you might be experienced with. One of the things that is critical to understand, and I'm sure everybody who has signed up for this seminar is aware, the termination for convenience clause is there, and it's one thing that the proposal team needs to be aware of as they look to submitting proposals. If the government needs have changed, the government can terminate a contract for convenience, or they can modify adding or subtracting work. Next slide, please. Just looking at the framework, there are a number of administrative steps that you need to deal with if you have not dealt with the U.S. government and you want to get your CAGE code, you want to register in what now is the System for Award Management, the SAM.gov. It used to be the CCR, and also you also had a online reps and certs called ORCA. All that should now be switched over to SAM. Your accounting system should be more detailed than you would normally use with a commercial business accounting system. And if you are a small business, you want to make sure that you have been certified as an 8A, if that is what you're able to do, or just that you are small or woman-owned, because there are preferences in the government arena. As a matter of fact, this is the first year that the government has met their 23% contracting goal with small businesses. And for the most part, you will be paid through the electronic data interchange system. Next slide, please. Whether you are just starting or you're looking at what it is that you would like to be doing from now into the future, you really need to determine the products that you wish to sell. Now, a lot of people say, well, why are you talking about that? We know that. There have been a number of companies that we have represented in the past that tried to sell anything and everything to the government, and also they decided that every agency was a prime target. We really want to determine which of the agencies would be your best customer, and you would want to make sure that that agency was aware of your interests so that you would get notifications. Now, when I say you get notifications, a lot of times now you're just surfing FedBizOps and going through your marketing program where you've been talking with a number of people in the agency, and that's how you become aware of various contract opportunities. Before each contract, or before each proposal rather, that you want to look at budget information, what you think the government is going to have for funds for the particular proposal, contract in question, and look at also the agency's prior and current needs, because this will help you to determine whether or not the agency is actually going to be issuing a solicitation that you might be interested in. You want to track opportunities responding to expressions of interest. A lot of people say, well, why should I take the time? Well, in some instances, the agency is not sure how to procure and what they should be looking for and what is the qualifications that they should be looking for as far as someone who would be providing the services or product. And this is how you can, in fact, move the agency towards using requirements that could be beneficial to your company. Attending industry days and proposal conferences also is important because you're going to meet government representatives. And while personal relations is not as it is in the commercial sector, where you're not going to be providing gifts or anything like that, but still, agency contracting officials and contract specialists, if they know who you are and you, just like if you've been a contractor with them and have done good work, that is very helpful as you go forward. You want to also, as you look at the various opportunities, you want to look at what opportunities or advantages you might have if you are a small business, and set up infrastructures and procedures that you, in fact, can utilize going forward. Now, before the next slide, please. Before the RFP is issued, you want to look at the current and prior contracts of the customer that you're focusing on. Attempt through FOIA to obtain the various solicitations and also some of the winning proposals if you can get them. They will be redacted, but sometimes they provide some very good information. And because it is sometimes difficult to put proposals together as under the requirements, the timeline requirements that the agencies have, you would want to look at putting together a boilerplate proposal, providing information that doesn't change irrespective of what the product or the services are. It's general background information would be very, very important to have already in place so that you can put that into your proposal template as you go forward. You want to also gather any resumes and documents that you will be looking to put into the proposal. And one thing that is good, now obviously the proposals themselves, the agencies are not looking for a gold-plated proposal per se, but they would like to see, and I've talked with a number of contracting officers when I was in the government and since that time, they would like to see, as appropriate, photographs of the various facilities that you have, potential products, and also sites. This gives them familiarity with your company because they're not going to perform a whole lot of site visits. And you might, depending on what products and services you are providing to the government, you might be able to draft an initial shell proposal that has certain themes that are consistent with how you conduct your business with the United States government. Next slide, please. When the solicitation is issued, sometimes after you look at the solicitation, you're going to decide not to bid. You want to make that decision very quickly because you don't want to waste time thinking about whether you're going to bid or not. If you're not going to bid, move it to the side and look for other opportunities. Also, you want to make sure that you have all the pages and amendments and attachments to your RFP. We've had situations, and why this slide is in there is there have been a number of times where clients have determined far into a procurement that they don't have all the pages. They're missing an amendment. And it's important to have, because in some instances we've had a situation where the the solicitation was on the website, and what happened was the website for the agency became frozen. They could not get a copy in a reasonable amount of time, and that adversely affected their success with respect to that proposal. You want to review the specifications, and you might be saying, of course, that's obvious, but there are many times where when these specifications, you review them, and sometimes you're going to make an assumption that you understand what the spec is. And that is something that we have found that making assumptions is really very dangerous, because you might assume that the specification means one thing and the government is having it mean another, and it might not be viewed as ambiguous if you ever filed a protest. Consequently, it's important to take care to review those specifications and create your own procurement library of the solicitation and all associated documents. If you have questions, you want to make sure that they're presented to the agency as quickly as possible. When you are, next slide, please. When you are looking at the RFP, you want to make sure you can set a realistic timeline as to how quickly you can get a proposal together. One of the things that we have found is you want to leave some time because of problems that occur, and it's day-to-day problems. Most companies do not have a separate proposal department, and therefore those people on the proposal team are also doing daily work. And while some can be basically put into a room to deal with the proposal full-time, most of the time that is not the case. So you want to make sure you do have leeway. And when I talked about, next slide, when I talked about the bid, no bid, you want to look at the elements there is you basing it on your research and the historical data you've gathered, and also making sure you know who your competitors are, because in some instances, some of the solicitations, you might not be not talking about an allegation where the solicitation might be wired for a company, talking about just a solicitation itself where a potential competitor is just too strong, and you want to make a realistic assessment because you only have a limited number of dollars that you can put towards submitting proposals, and you want to make sure that you have a realistic chance of winning, and realistic is key. I mean, in some instances, only you as a company can determine what is in fact realistic going forward. You want to make sure that you don't, at the end of the day, waste your time putting in a proposal that you're going to lose, or that it's possible that you're not able to fully complete all of the work under the contract, and you don't want to essentially buy a potential termination for default, or perform at a loss. You want to be very careful about that. With respect to initial proposal development process, that's the next slide, you want to build a proposal team that has the right people for the job. It's critical to know your team members, know their strengths and weaknesses, and don't ignore that information, because it's important to have those people that are basically going to give you the best proposal you can provide to the government. With the kickoff, which is the next slide, you're basically going to get your team together and set the ground rules, assign specific responsibilities and deadlines, and make sure that your team will, in fact, share information and everybody has accessibility to the solicitation and other documents. The next slide provides a focus on a compliance checklist, which is something that takes some time to put together, but because your proposal should be compliant, complete, and compelling, you would want to set up a compliance checklist, that essentially follows the solicitation, providing all of the contract requirements from the solicitation in this checklist, also providing what contract form you will have, all of the specifications, including the work statement, supplies, your contract terms with a base year, with option years, and make sure you even have the special contracting requirements dealing with data rights and use of proprietary information, and if there's government furnished equipment. And also you want to have what the evaluation factors are for award, which is section M of your solicitation, and the instructions and conditions that notices that the government has put in section L. And section L, and you turn to the next slide, please, Jennifer. If you want to use section L, which is the instructions, and section M, which is the evaluation criteria, along with the statement of work, to focus on the technical and performance specs that you're going to be basing your proposal on. Essentially, you want to follow the solicitation, and they do. The solicitation provides you with a very good roadmap, and I want to emphasize again, don't make assumptions, ask questions. The agencies are normally very willing to respond to questions. If they don't, there's always the possibility of filing a pre-award agency protest with respect to the issues that you want to get answered, so that there is no uncertainty or ambiguity in the solicitation document itself. As you're looking at the solicitation and continuing of your proposal preparation, turn to the next slide, please. You want to make sure that you perform the proper risk analysis. And one thing now, under the new regime with information security and cyber risk, you want to make sure that you're able to comply with the various rules and regulations that the government now is basically putting government contractors under. There's cybersecurity risks. It's a serious concern. We're mentioning it here today, but it is really a seminar of its own. You also want to make decisions as far as whether you're going to subcontract, who you're going to subcontract with. Is this someone that you might want to you have a long-term subcontract relationship with, and maybe then you would enter into a joint venture agreement with that company, or if this is going to be a one-time deal with a subcontractor, a teaming agreement might be appropriate. But these are the decisions that you have to make. When you start writing your proposal, which is the next slide, you want to write for non-experts, experts, and those non-experts that think they're experts. And why I say this is if you are clear and concise in your proposal writing, the non-experts will understand, the experts will get enough information, and the non-experts obviously will be taken care of, because either way they will think they understand what is going on. But when I was in the government, my contracting officers would tell me that there are a lot of times they received proposals that were written that seemed to talk around the solicitation and not focus on it, and to sometimes speak down to the various government people. So you want to be careful how you write your proposal. Now, each volume needs to stand alone because it's going to be evaluated separately. So it's very important to make sure that each one, in fact, will stand alone. Now, with respect to proposal content, which is the next slide, you want to have consistency throughout your separate volumes. You want to make sure, as I mentioned earlier, that they're easy to read and evaluate. You're explaining to the government how your offer is going to meet the agency's need. You want to make sure that your proposal is not ambiguous, that the themes, you tie everything together in each of the volumes. And one thing that some companies shy away from are executive summaries. I have found when I was in the government representing contracting officers, one of the key components that really helped the contracting officers and others who were reviewing a significant number of proposals is they could go to the executive summary and get a good understanding of what the proposal was going to be focusing on. It also could refresh a person's recollection and made it easier for that person to then go in and deal with specific evaluation of that proposal. So don't shy away. It takes time, but it is important. The next slide is dealing with technical volumes. Frequently, this is the most important volume. What you want to do, when I say be realistic, we're talking about don't overpromise. You want to detail a specific solution, make sure that when they look at the technical proposal and the price proposal together, it all makes sense, and the government understands how the company is pricing the proposal. With respect to the management volume, which is the next slide, you want to showcase the experience of your personnel and explain how your management is going to make things run extremely smoothly, but also how, if you are not the incumbent, how your company will transition from not being the incumbent to actually performing the contract, how they will in fact maintain the necessary services for the agency or provide the products within the various milestones established by your proposal. And don't ever assume that that the evaluators know your company. We have represented a number of incumbents who have basically ignored the fact that evaluators might not know the company, even though they have been incumbents for 10 and 15 years. You need to write the proposal as if the evaluator does not know you, even if you are the incumbent, and clearly provide your experience and capabilities, because in that way you're assured that you will have an evaluation that is more accurate to your proposal and your experience. With respect to the next slide, the cost of pricing volume, you want to make sure that the cost of pricing volume demonstrates that your prices and costs are reasonable and realistic. You want that they support the rationale of your proposal. You want to make sure that they are accurate. There have been a number of times where companies have come in and not checked their cost or pricing volume due to the shortness of time in submitting the proposal, and they've lost because of it. With respect to the next slide, I just call it, this is in our book. The Magic Circle is a system that was put in place by Charles Wilkins, who's a former Chief Compliance Officer at KPMG and an accountant, also a personal friend. If you're dealing with cost-type contracts, the Magic Circle is something that you would want to focus on. So I just mentioned that here. With respect to the next slide, past performance, that is really something that is been highlighted a lot in the recent years, and it really is an important factor. When I first started government contracts back in the 70s, past performance was not as important as it is today. And one of the things that you need to do as a company is not be afraid to address negative past performance. There are certain instances where past performance has been negative because of a contracting officer's bias of some sort. Sometimes there's just been a situation that was unusual. If you identify the situation, provide what you have done to eliminate that type of situation in the future. This is certainly what the contracting officer and other evaluators want to hear, because you're not going to be penalized for past performance, negative past performance, if you have the corrective action implemented. I've talked to contracting officers about that, and while they're concerned about negative past performance, they do give credit for comments and information that essentially provides them with support that, in fact, this past performance will not be a problem. You also want to make sure that your reference checks are clear to the agency, but also you want to identify, you want to call rather the references and let them know that you are going to be using them as references. If they agree, then you tell them when those references, when they might be called. And if there is an issue with one of the references, as far as there's a language issue, you want to make sure that the agency is aware that you might need an interpreter for a reference. Now, the next slide deals with other proposal pieces, and how you, Section L is really important here. That will provide you with the format requirements, page limits, how you lay out everything, and you also want to make sure that you have the appropriate proprietary legend on the title page, and then on each page thereafter that is contains proprietary information of your company. If you used marketing materials, you want to make sure that they are current, up to date, and there are no contradictions. If there are contradictions, you might be viewed as non-responsive if it is a bid type situation. The next slide focuses on your review of the various volumes. We call this red team. With larger, more complex proposals, you can have multiple review teams. It could be a red team, a blue team, all the way up to a gold team. They review the volumes individually and as a whole. They utilize the actual evaluation process as laid out in the solicitation, and they should be thorough and candid. And it's very important that anybody who has written part of the proposal leave their feelings outside, because you need to be candid in order to make sure that the proposal is the best it can be. You also want to bring your lawyers in to deal with any intellectual property issues or other risks and liabilities that you might face when you submit a proposal under the solicitation that you're looking at. The next slide talks about proposal delivery, and the reason why I say leave sufficient time, make sure that you know what you need to do as far as delivery is concerned. With agencies now having security in most agencies and on bases, you want to make sure you know where you need to deliver the proposal and give yourself enough time, of your delivery person enough time to get on base, because GAO and also the Court of Federal Claims will look at late delivery as just that. It's late, and unless there is government mishandling, you're going to miss out on that opportunity. The next slide just talks about what you might go through if, in fact, you submit a proposal. There could be competitive range determinations where the agency then will have discussions and clarifications. They could also provide oral presentations. And one thing about oral presentations we mentioned earlier, pick the right people. You might have the best technical expert in your company, but he is the worst oral presenter. You want to have that person there just in case there is a technical question, but you want to get someone who, in fact, can make a very good presentation, because that is going to influence how the government views your company. And after the discussions and the oral presentations, the government will look to you for a final proposal revision, which allows you to basically revise what it is that you want to. I would recommend not revising the entire proposal, because the agency will be reluctant to put together another full evaluation as they've done for the original submissions. As far as the next slide, awards and debriefing, a couple of things. One is you want to check and make sure that you're looking at the websites to make sure that you're aware of the award, because once the award is made, you have 10 days from when you knew or should have known to file a protest if that's the case, but also you have 3 days from award to file a request for debriefing. A request for debriefing, I recommend, and Rob has confirmed that it's a good idea when he was at Hanscom, to whether you win or lose, you should file for a debriefing, because if you win, it's really the honeymoon period, and you may be surprised, as some of my clients have been, as to what information you would receive during that winning debriefing. And then also make sure, whether you win or lose, you go through a lessons learned analysis, because even if you won, if you do a lessons learned analysis, you will understand better how to provide a proposal to the government. And that we wanted to leave time for questions. So at this time, we will have them. I know that we've gone through these slides quickly, but in order to give you the whole picture of what it is that you do with respect to submitting proposals with the government, what things you have to deal with, and we wanted to sensitize all of the participants here today, and then hopefully stimulate some questions.
Great presentation, Michael and Rob. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us. So it looks like we do have some questions coming in, and we will read those off in the order that they're received. The first one reads, if a new company buys a company that has been in existence for several years, can the new company claim the experience of the company they bought for using past performance history?
Yes, they can. And it is, you want to make sure that when you put that in your proposal, you want to let the agency know how the new management is basically incorporating the old company and the experience. And a lot of times you maintain or retain the former employees and some of the management people, and most of the time when we are involved with companies buying other companies, we want to have employment agreements for top management also for a couple of years to transition to our company. Therefore, you do get the experience, but you want to explain how it's going to work. You don't want to leave any doubt as to the fact that there is going to be the old companies or the target company that you just purchased. They are going to be a major player.
And I think to follow on that point, the important thing to remember is you want to accurately represent what your capability is post-acquisition. If you somehow lose key personnel or lose divisions, you don't want that to continue to be reflected in your past performance. You want to make sure that gets removed.
Great. Does every proposal require a red team and a legal review?
You know, I have clients that do not have, they do reviews. It doesn't, and red team could be formal, but they do reviews. As far as legal reviews, they're not required, but today my concern has been that you don't want to inadvertently lose your intellectual property rights or data rights by not understanding what the ramifications of the various clauses are in the specification. I'm sorry, in the solicitation.
Okay. Will every proposal have a Q&A period, and also will every proposal have oral presentations?
I'll do the last one first. oral presentations are not used as much as I thought they would be. So no, that doesn't happen. As far as Q&A is concerned, there might not be a formal Q&A, but if you have questions about the solicitation, it is important to file those questions with the contracting officer. And if you do not get a response within a reasonable amount of time, that's when you have to decide whether you pursue the solicitation or walk away. And most of the time, people are going to pursue it. So you would contact the contracting officer, and if you don't, if they're ignoring you, then one of the things that you can do is file a agency level protest, which has been labeled the quiet protest, and state that there is ambiguities, there's uncertainties with these questions. Most of the time, the contracting officers will be very responsive to the questions, because if there are issues with the solicitation and they can address them early, it makes their lives easier.
I just want to add to that. Don't wait for the government to call for questions. There's no requirement that the government issue some kind of solicitation for questions. Ask them as they come up. And to Michael's point, the earlier that the government gets them, the better. And the government's going to appreciate that, because that gives them sufficient lead time to make changes that could ultimately impact their timeline.
Great. Are my proposals proprietary, or can a competitor file a FOIA request and obtain my information?
That's a real loaded question. You would want to, my position has always been that your proposal is proprietary. You want to have the legend, an appropriate legend on the proposal, and in the Federal Acquisition Regulation, they do have those legends there that you can use. As far as whether they can be obtained under the Freedom of Information Act, the question, you really have to determine whether or not the information is in fact proprietary and business sensitive. Obviously, you have an opportunity after your competitor files the FOIA with the agency. The agency should send you a copy of the FOIA, and then you would then provide the agency with support for why those pages, those selected pages. Do yourself a favor. Don't assume that every single page of your proposal is proprietary. Some of the pages are essentially a repeat of the solicitation. What you want to do is make sure that, and be focused on this, if it's truly proprietary. And sometimes the way you laid out your proposal could be proprietary and could give your competitors some good information. So in that instance, you have to explain why the layout is such, and you might have to take off some of the headings. But specifically, you want to make sure that business proprietary information is in fact redacted, and send the agency the redacted version that you would in fact permit them to release. A couple of things why you would do this. One is you're helping the contracting officer here. I used to represent at the United States, now called the Government Accountability Office, I used to represent the agency in FOIA matters. I was their legal counsel. And there are a lot of FOIAs that came in, and one of the things that contracting officers liked and the FOIA officer liked was getting a document that was in fact releasable and approved by the proposer. And so that's important. Also, I can tell you, when I left the government and private practice, I got this was before electronics, I got a hand-delivered version of a redacted proposal. And what was clear, and I had to return it, was the agency, when they redacted it, used a magic marker, but did not go over it enough, and if you put it to the light, you could actually see the writing. Once it became clear with the first redacted part that could be done, we put it back in the envelope and requested that the agency send us another one and explain why, and returned it. So you want to be careful when you send a redacted version. You also want to make sure that if you're sending it electronically, that someone can't eliminate your redactions and then see the proposal. You would want to make copies of the proposal, eliminating some of the sections and then blacking it out. And there's some, my technical people tell me that it can be done. So I don't know from a technology standpoint how to do it, but they've done it in a way that no one can take the redacted blackness off of the solicitation and get any of the hidden data because it's not there.
Next question reads, my company uses a lot of outside consultants and 1099s for proposal writing. Should we require that they sign a non-disclosure agreement and also a non-compete? If so, how long of a period should the non-compete be for?
Well, obviously, if the consultant is very, very good, they will be in a better position to make that period shorter if you really need them. Clearly, a non-disclosure would be important. As far as the non-compete is concerned, depending on the industry itself, it might be difficult to get them to agree to that. I know that with if you're before the Court of Federal Claims or the GAO, there is a outside consultant protective order which requires that the expert not represent any competitors concerning the specific subject matter for 3 years. I think that in just putting proposals together, it could be problematic, and hopefully the non-disclosure agreement will be strict enough that it will protect you. But it really will depend on the situation.
Okay. How many people are we permitted to take to the oral presentation? And also, will this information later become public knowledge?
Well, the oral presentation is not recorded. Most of the time, it's not recorded. So it's one of those things that if you don't provide information to the government, the chances are less that it's going to become public. The oral presentations really are established by the agency. They will tell you how many people they want, and they will tell you the format and everything else. So you really are, and if you feel that the format that they've established is problematic, you want to deal with that as quickly as possible so that you have the people necessary there to make the presentation. If you do have slides that you use during the oral presentation, just make sure that each slide has the appropriate legend on it. I'm assuming that those slides will be more, each one will be detailed and have some proprietary information. So it's critical to have those with the proper legends.
Okay. Does the compliance matrix come with the RFP, or is this something that we develop internally?
It's something that you develop. We put together a compliance matrix, and what essentially you're doing is you're taking the solicitation and you are making a book. It's your own personal book, and then under each one of the clauses, you're putting in notes concerning the meaning of the clause. You're putting in who's responsible for working with that particular requirement. You're also putting in whether or not the specific RFP clause has been amended, because after you get your RFP, then you'll get an amendment, and the amendment will provide changes The compliance matrix then is revised to include amendment number 1. And then what I would do is, in a separate file in your procurement library, I would have the solicitation as you received it, amendment 1 as you've received it, and make sure that you acknowledge all those amendments. That's also important.
Okay. Next question reads, does your book include a sample of what a proposal should look like?
No, not really. And anybody that says that they have something that that you should use, I would sort of stay away from that, only because each proposal is different depending on the solicitation. And yes, I did say you want to have some sections that might be utilized over and over again. Background of the company, some of the experts in your company as far as the resumes and everything like that. Yes, that can be reused, but every agency, and actually within various agencies, you will have different Section L. Section L will tell you what the proposal is supposed to look like. It's going to tell you the font you're supposed to use, how many page limitation. It's really going to provide you with a roadmap. You know, I wouldn't be afraid that, gosh, I've never submitted a proposal, or I don't know what the proposal is going to look like, because Section L will, in fact, provide you with that information. The compliance checklist was something that I can't say that it was my idea, because I was aware of compliance checklists when I was at GAO in 1976 through 83, and I didn't deal with start putting this book together until probably the early 90s.
What should I do if my business structure has changed or key personnel have left after I've submitted a proposal?
Well, if it's a key person, if a key person leaves, the solicitation should provide you with the procedure as to what you're supposed to do. Obviously, with any person that leaves that has been specifically identified, you need to get a substitute person that has a resume that is essentially the same as the one who has left. You want to let the agency know why the person has left. You want to you clearly, one of the potential issues there is a competitor might say it was a bait and switch. They said that they were going to use Rob Leahy because of all his procurement experience, and then they knew that Rob was leaving the company. Rob leaves, and someone else comes in and doesn't have that that Air Force experience that was necessary to do the things that he was proposed for. Someone could say, well, wait a second, that's a bait and switch, and that would be considered improper. If Rob happened to take another job, it was a sudden thing, then the agency would say, okay, this is something that was not anticipated by the company. So you would need to deal with the contracting officer as far as that's concerned. If your structure is changed, the issue is going to be, can you, as far as I'm concerned, if the structure changed, but it really was not the focus of why you got the award, I don't think that you would, at that point, have to explain that to the agency and do anything. Obviously, you would start implementing the transition, and you would let the agency, I would let the agency know at that point that there was some changes, but the transition's running the same way as we said in our proposal, and that way they're not surprised or looking for something later. But if it's not something that was in your proposal, that is not something that should cause alarm. Now, let me just say one thing about the questions are great questions, but in government contracts, one thing that I found is there is the law, there is the regulations, and every time that there's every proposal and every solicitation is based on the facts surrounding the solicitation and the proposal. The solutions or the decisions made are really fact-specific. So while I'm giving, I hope, an answer that is responsive, and I think it is, it might not be responsive for every single situation.
Great. And actually that wraps up the Q&A portion. So great questions, great presentation, and very detailed answers there, so I appreciate that. So any last thoughts as far as conclusions, Michael or Rob?
The critical thing is, and it looks like you say, oh, this is common sense, but really, read the RFP, ask those questions, and don't be afraid to ask the questions, because you will, in fact, establish a very good relation, I believe, a good relationship with agency procurement personnel, and it will help you to respond to the solicitation. If anybody has questions, Rob and my phone numbers are on the slides. Feel free to call with any of those questions. We don't have a problem doing that. Obviously, we can't spend 6 weeks answering all those questions, but we obviously can provide guidance, and we have no problem responding to it. And any comments you have concerning the slides or what you might want to see in the future is also welcome. And we thank you for taking the time to listen to us today.
Great, and thanks to Michael and Rob for sharing your time and your expertise. It was enjoyable, and I want to thank the attendees for taking time out of your busy days to join in. This webinar, again, is being recorded, so if you've missed any portions of it, we will have it posted on our website under the webinar tab later this evening, and the website, again, is jenniferschaus.com. Thanks, everybody, and thanks again, Michael and Rob.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.